everyone, welcome back to another week of the Triple Play. This is Danielle, and this week I am joined by Mason and Henry. It's nice to have you guys back on the show. So we're going to start with probably the biggest news here on Rocky Top since Friday, the firing of Donnie Tyndall after just one season here at UT. His contract was terminated by UT, saying that he is, quote, highly likely to be found responsible for serious violations of level 1 or 2 NCAA rules. So basically what has happened, the NCAA called UT Thursday, giving what would be the informal list of the findings from the investigation of Tyndall's time at Southern Miss. A source from ESPN's Andy Katz said that Tyndall will be accused of financial and academic violations. A formal notice of allegation should be released within the next few weeks, but UT is not supposed to be at risk for anything. I don't know about you guys, but in some ways, I guess this was really surprising, but in other ways, the firing was not all that much of a surprise.
I mean, you knew that he had some NCAA trouble early on anyway, but I didn't think it would build up to be the level 1 and level 2 violations where he's the financial problems and then the academic problems. You thought it was just small stuff, small-time stuff.
The university, you would have to think, was under the impression that that was the case as well. Otherwise, I don't think there's any way they would have hired him in the first place.
Yeah, and I think one big thing there, going into the hiring, I know that at the press conference, whenever we had just hired Tyndall after Quanzo left for UC Berkeley, it was said by Dave Hart that he had reviewed Tyndall's history with NCAA infractions and troubles, especially whenever he was at Morehead State, whenever they had the 2-year probation back in 2010 with the violations related to activity from boosters. But Hart had said then that he had no concerns about what had happened and that he thought Tyndall had learned from that. But it's just, I mean, if you have that kind of stuff in your history, it's likely you're going to kind of revert back to it in some ways. That's one way of looking at it. But
if he had a proven track record of doing it, he's probably going to end up doing it again.
Exactly. And that's definitely one big thing to look at with this. Looking at his contract, since the termination of the contract was from being said as, quote, for cause, UT won't have to pay Donnie Tyndall a $3 million buyout. So that's something that could be looked at as a little bit of a grace, I guess you could say. But speaking of buyouts, there was talk since before the official firing had happened. I think the official news came out around 9 in the morning on Friday. Around 8:30 or 8:15, I was seeing people, whenever the reports were kind of being broken, saying maybe it's going to happen. I'd already seen bring Bruce back. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know about this, but of course this is going to happen. But in terms of buyouts, I know people are wanting Bruce Pearl to come here. His buyout for his contract at Auburn is $5 million. $2 million more than what we would have had to pay Donnie if the termination was something different. So that $5 million payout, or buyout, I should say, there were fans who started yet another campaign, it's like we haven't seen this before, to buy out his contract. And the last time I checked was yesterday at 1 p.m., and it was up to $731 from 24 people. One person pledged $321, and I thought, are you serious? But I don't know. I feel like that buyout is just insane, in my opinion. But
I'm not sure if you're allowed to do this, but if I had to guess, I would be willing to bet that Bruce Pearl maybe would be willing to buy part of his own buyout if Tennessee were to say, you can have this job if you can help us pay the buyout. I'm not sure if you're allowed to do that, but
I don't see that happening at all. I don't think that we're going to bring in a replacement for a guy who we had to fire because of violations with a guy who we have already had to fire because of violations. I don't see that happening.
I agree, and Dave also brought that up, saying, I had heard this on Paul Feinbaum's show Friday afternoon from Mike Strange, saying that Dave had said in the press conference that there's not really a chance that you're going to hire somebody that already has that kind of in his past. Because, I mean, we've already had 2 coaches who have had trouble with it. So, I mean, why try to bring another one in just to make that really just insane?
And with how expensive it would be, too. to not only the buyout, but also you have to pay him as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's completely true. Another thing with this, there have been reports today, apparently, that Rick Barnes, who was just fired from Texas recently, could be getting offered the job here at Tennessee. And I mean, it has been 3 days since the firing. Granted, whenever Tennessee hired Tyndall, it was only a week after Konzo left, so I'm wondering if there's like a new idea coming from this coaching search that the quicker it happens, maybe the more successful it'll be. I don't know how I feel about that. I know in the press conference, Dave Hart said that he was going to be using a search firm to go in through this to kind of like lay out with like the logistics and everything. So, I mean, I don't really know how accurate that's going to be either.
Yeah.
But for it just being 3 days and these reports coming out that he's going to be offered a job, I know a lot of people are going to be on that bandwagon because he has been fairly successful.
Yeah.
He was fairly successful at Texas.
Yeah, he's been pretty successful wherever he's been, really. He pretty much built the Texas basketball program into what it is now.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And other names that had been thrown around since Friday for the coaching job that like I had heard of, Shaka Smart, of course. He was thrown around the last time from VCU. That would be a fantastic coach to have here at UT. Richard Pitino from Minnesota. I think that could be so much fun, having Rick Pitino's boy here in Knoxville, especially whenever we play against Kentucky with all of the stuff that Rick did for the Wildcats. That'd be really exciting. Rick Byrd from Belmont. This one I just saw, I want to say Saturday. I was kind of thrown with this one. I did not expect to see a Belmont coach in there.
Well, he's kind of old, and he's just really rooted there at the. He is Belmont basketball. That's what that guy does.
Absolutely. And one name that it was thrown around last time just a little bit whenever we were looking for a coach after Martin left, but it was brought back up again this weekend. I'm a big fan of this one. Archie Miller from Dayton. I mean, Dayton this year and last year, 2 successful seasons. I mean, they came into this tournament as a play-in team, and they went pretty far. They ended up losing to Oklahoma in the round of 62, but I mean, for them to come in being an 11 seed and doing fairly well, I mean, Archie Miller knows how to coach.
Yeah, you can coach.
And I think he could definitely do a lot with the Tennessee program, but as of right now, maybe it's looking like it'll be Rick Barnes. Maybe this is just someone saying, oh, hey, you know what? Let's just throw this one out there and like try to get people talking. Maybe it's another groomer. Why haven't they thrown John Gruden in the mix? I mean, that's what we do here at Tennessee, apparently. But this coaching search is definitely really interesting. Has been interesting since early Friday morning. It's definitely been talk here on campus, but we'll be looking to see what happens there, if it's going to be sooner than later, but who knows. Looking at the men's tournament really quick, the Elite Eight went on this week. Or this weekend, I should say, and we have the Final Four set to go, but we're going to look at those games first. Wisconsin ended up beating Arizona 85-78. This was kind of tough for me because I picked Arizona in most of my brackets, thinking, well, their height and their perimeter shooting could really go against Kentucky very well, but I mean, it's Wisconsin. You can't really stop them right now. But Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky, I mean, these two were just a dynamic duo in this matchup. Sam Decker had 27 points with 5 rebounds and 1 assist. And this is from a guy who averages 14 points per game. So for him to just come out and score 27, I mean, that was ridiculous.
And Wisconsin is one of the few teams in the entire country that can match the size, just the pure size of Kentucky. You got Frank Kaminsky, who's a 7-footer that can score. It's going to probably be matched up with Towns most of the game.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. Yeah. That is one matchup. If anybody could contain Towns for a majority of the game, I honestly think it could be Kaminsky. Because, I mean, this guy, he's good on both sides of the ball. Yeah. This is just an all-around great playmaker. I mean, I think he might be up for the Naismith right now. Yes. I know it came out today, but I didn't get to see the 4 names.
I didn't get the chance to look at it.
Yeah, I know Kaminsky. I'm pretty sure Kaminsky was up for it. I think a guy from Duke, Okafor was in there. I mean,
Towns.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now I would pick Kaminsky, but that's just me. Like, I'm just saying, I would be a fan of him to win that one. But talking about Kaminsky, he had 29 points with 6 rebounds, 1 assist, a steal, and a block. So, I mean, a full line there for him. But Wisconsin overall shot 67% from three-point land, which was their season high. That's really impressive.
Against a really, really good Arizona defense.
Absolutely, yeah. Arizona's defense coming into this, that was one of the notes I had with them, too, is their defense was just, I mean, they were stacked. It was really impressive to watch them play, but Decker alone from three-point range was 5 for 6. And Wisconsin totally for the second half was 10 for 12 from three-point land. That's just absolutely insane. And then you look over to Arizona, and they were only shooting 33% from the three. I mean, for an Arizona team that's good from the perimeter, that's really low.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by those low of numbers. I thought it would be pretty evenly matched, but I mean, if Arizona's going to get above 50% from the three, it's kind of hard to kind of like stick with them. But Wisconsin found a way to really just stop Arizona's defense. I'm going to commend them for that one.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder what they can do against Kentucky's defense.
This Wisconsin team's a lot different than the one they had last year that played Kentucky. That team last year was, they really wanted to slow the game down and they wanted to really, really grind it out. This Wisconsin team, I wouldn't say they like to get out and run, but they can really do it if they really need to. They can get out and they can score the ball.
Definitely, and they're a team, too, that, I mean, they're going to score no matter how they can. Like, any chance they can take, they will, and that's how Kentucky is, too. Whether it's in the paint, because we know they have that size to score in the paint, but, I mean, they have guys who can shoot threes. I mean, the Harrison twins, last year, I think it was Andrew that was really big in shooting, and he's kind of had an off season this season, but Aaron Harrison, I mean, he just comes in whenever you need him, and it's just ridiculous. So, speaking of Kentucky, very close game this weekend. I was really thinking the Irish had it for the longest time, and I was so happy. I predicted them being tied at the half, and I was so excited. 31-all, but Kentucky barely edged Notre Dame 68-66. I know we already talked about Karl Anthony Towns, and he just had a stellar performance. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. So full line there from him, too. I mean, 1 block. I was really surprised by that one.
I felt like every time I watched Kentucky play this year, it's like every time someone gets into the paint, it gets blocked. It's like every other shot is blocked. It's outrageous.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is. And this team, on both sides of the ball, I mean, their offense has improved. At the beginning of the season, I mean, everybody looked at Devin Booker coming in as a freshman being like the top scorer. And I mean, you still had the Harrisons there too. But their offense started off a little shaky, and since then it has definitely gotten bigger and definitely stronger. But I mean, their defense has been there all season. Yeah. And they're just ridiculous. But the game, like I said, was tied at 31 going into halftime. And Notre Dame held the lead for most of the second half, but they just really just slowed up with about 5 minutes or so left, and Kentucky just capitalized on it. This will be Kentucky's 4th time in 5 years making it to the Final Four, and that is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't see how this is happening, but, I mean, Calipari is doing something right, and it's just ridiculous to see.
Dude brings in the best players in the country every year. Mm-hmm. Brings in the best high school talent, and I guess it's not so much that he's a great X's and O's coach, but he gets a bunch of guys that are the best player on each of their respective teams, and he gets them to play together. Mm-hmm. So he's not exactly writing up great plays in the huddles, but he's getting them to play together and play with great chemistry.
Definitely. And looking over at the games from yesterday afternoon, Michigan State and Louisville was a really, really exciting game. Michigan State, the 7 seed, comes in and beats Louisville, the 4 seed, 76-70 in overtime. One thing that's really important to note, even though Louisville did lose, Wayne Blackshear went off in this game. 28 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 block. I mean, going into the half, Louisville was winning 40-32. Whenever I was looking at the scores for this game yesterday, and I saw Louisville was up by 8, I was like, okay, this is a small lead, but I mean, they could definitely just still continue to capitalize on this lead and just win it. But, I mean...
8 points in college basketball is a lot of points.
That definitely is, and especially in March Madness, too. I mean, if it would have been a 2-point game, you'd think, okay, we have a good one here, or even tied, like, Notre Dame and Kentucky, which was a fantastic game, I'll give them that. But, I mean, Louisville had that 8-point lead, and then in the second half alone, Michigan State came out and scored 33 points, and went into overtime, and Michigan State went on to score 11 there, holding Louisville to only 5 points in overtime. But in terms of shooting percentages, Michigan State really did well at the line, shooting free throws. They shot 75%, with Louisville shooting 69%. But what really shocked me was looking at the 3-point percentages. Both teams were around 30%. Louisville was at 36%, and then Michigan State was just at 39%. But I mean, I thought that would be a little bit higher from Louisville.
Louisville, at times this year, has really, really struggled to score the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The defense has always been there with what's that guy's name? I forget, the big center. They always play great defense, but they really struggle to score the basketball a lot of times.
All of their threes were scored by Blackshear.
Mm-hmm.
All 4 of their threes.
Yeah, and I mean, that guy, he can play. He is one player I've really liked watching this season, but I mean, he just, like I said, he went off, 28 points. Michigan State's leading scorer only had 15 points, which is, that's like, it's kind of a really big difference there. 15 points for your top performer from Michigan State, and then 28 for Louisville.
Still win the game.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But it's really important. I know this win was really big for Tom Izzo. I want to say that this makes him the only coach to make it into the Final Four. I want to say like 4 times, I think it is, being a team that's like a 3 seed or lower.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what I saw earlier. But Tom Izzo, he's kind of like, I know a lot of people are holding him in the same regard as John Calipari with the teams that he can bring in and how he executes his coaching styles. But he has a good team. He has good squads year in and year out.
Yeah,
the depth really, I think, won it for Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get 14 points off the bench, whereas Louisville had 5 points total off the bench, which is not exactly good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. It's really interesting for the Spartans going into the Final Four that this is their 9th appearance overall and the first since 2010, whenever they lost to Butler. But for Tom Izzo, like I was saying, he has led Michigan State to 7 Final Fours, with them winning the national championship in 2000. I remember watching that game. Tom Izzo, he's definitely doing something right with Michigan State. It's just hard to believe that it's been almost 5 years since they were in it last. I feel like it's so hard to believe.
Yeah.
But for the men's, the other game that went on yesterday was Duke and Gonzaga, a 1-2 matchup here. Gonzaga I thought they were going to look super promising coming into this game, but Duke ends up winning 66-52. Not really surprised the more I think about it, but I thought it was really interesting. Kyle Wiltshire, who played for Kentucky last year, who ended up transferring to Gonzaga, had 16 points. There, it kind of makes me wonder if he would have played against
That would have been fun to watch.
Notre Dame. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if Kentucky and Gonzaga could have taken on one another in the national championship, that would have been an exciting game. I would have been rooting for Wiltshire. I'm going to throw that one out there. Loved him at Kentucky, but it was just ridiculous. And this was, I want to say this game is leading up to Coach K's 12th Final Four, which is ridiculous.
That's insane.
We know he's a legendary coach, but 12 Final Fours, that's just insane. But like I was saying with Kyle Wiltshire, 16 points and 5 rebounds there that he had for Gonzaga. And looking over at Duke, Matt Jones had a fairly good game. He's a sophomore, I should say. He had 16 points and 4 3-pointers for the Blue Devils, which was really exciting. But he was the leading scorer there for Duke. Okafor, who is up for the Naismith, like we were saying, had 8 rebounds. That's pretty normal performance for him, I would say. But looking ahead at the matchup between Duke and Michigan State, just looking at the Final Four in general, I'm going to let you guys open up on who you think is going to win each matchup, go into the championship, and who is going to take home the hardware.
I got to take Wisconsin, and I got to take probably Duke.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Wisconsin is much more experienced than Kentucky. I think the Wisconsin guards are going to give those young players like Devin Booker and the Harrison twins just fits. And I think that with Wisconsin's size and how they move the basketball, they can score enough points to beat Kentucky. And I think the thing with the Notre Dame game was with Kentucky, it kind of exposed Kentucky's lack of two big scores. Willie Cauley-Stein is fantastic in transition and on the defensive end, but the guy really, really struggles to create on his own with his back to the basket.
Absolutely.
And I think with the Duke game, I think Duke just wins it because Duke, during the entire season, offense was their big calling card. They really had a really terrible defense during the entire regular season. But they won a lot of games because they could score a lot of points. Mm-hmm. And now that they're putting both of those things together, I think they just end Michigan State's run. I don't see Michigan State beating Duke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to have to pick Wisconsin as well, just because they're probably playing some of their best basketball this season right now. They're a great team anyways, but they're just unbelievably hot right now, playing really well. And then Duke is probably a bit too talented for Michigan State to deal with. So
definitely. I honestly think whoever wins the Kentucky-Wisconsin matchup, that will be your national champion. Because, these are two teams who are stacked whenever it comes to scoring. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they can really work some magic. But being stacked with scoring, I think it mainly stems from being able to score no matter the cost. Kentucky, they'll just go into the paint, just drive hard until they can get a score. And if you need a 3-point shot, throw a Harrison out there. See what happens. That's kind of been the coaching style there.
He chucked one up from 3 feet behind the arc, just threw it up.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of normal for Kentucky. They always have 1 or 2 players who can do that.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely insane. But for the other one, I would love to pick Michigan State. But I agree with you guys. I feel like Duke is just too talented. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. I'm holding out hope Michigan State wins it. So I'm gonna pick Michigan State over Duke. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I do agree that Duke is more talented, but I think Michigan State, they have some magic going on right now. So I'm gonna throw it up and see what happens. Well, hopefully I'll be right, but it's okay. So yeah, I think it's easy to go ahead and pick Kentucky to win in the matchup against Kentucky and Wisconsin, but depending on how Kaminsky plays, if Kaminsky and Decker can have the night that they had Saturday night, I honestly think Wisconsin could beat Kentucky.
I think it's just which team's stars take over the game. That'll be who wins.
Definitely.
That's how it is often at this stage in the tournament.
Definitely. And with Kentucky, it's important to note that, if you can transfer in and out 2 starting lineups there for that roster, you can't even predict who the star of the game's going to be. It changes with every single game. Their top performer, I'd have to look back, but I don't think it's been the same person 2 games in a row at all this season. The more I think about it, I'm pretty sure that's the case. But definitely, this is probably the most exciting Final Four I've seen in a while. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch for both games. I'm really excited. The championship should offer a lot of entertainment too. But looking over at the women's, the Lady Vols are still in it. It was a nail biter. I've never been more scared in my life to watch a game, but the Lady Vols beat Gonzaga this weekend in overtime. Gonzaga's an 11 seed, which is just ridiculous. The more I thought about it after the game, I thought, how in the world are they an 11 seed? That is not right. They are absolutely powerful. They don't get as much credit as they should. That's one thing that's for sure. But they looked really strong against Tennessee. They held the lead. I think the only time the Vols had the lead before they ended up getting it with a minute or so left in the second half was the 15-minute mark in the first half. So, that's just absolutely ridiculous. But Sierra Burdick, goodness gracious, 22 points, 15 rebounds, and 2 steals there for her. But one thing that I think is absolutely incredible, looking at the stats, shooting percentages. I'm going to go with Gonzaga first. 46% from the field, 44% from three-point range, 69% from the free throw line. Then we look over at Tennessee. 32% from the field, 32% from three-point range, 96% from the free throw line. 96%. 21 for 22.
It's really, really good.
The Vols won
Absolutely
the game
insane.
from the free throw line.
Oh, definitely. The Lady Vols got all 10 free throws in overtime, thank goodness. I'm pretty sure Jordan Reynolds got more time at the line than just, like, regular playing time. She was ridiculous from the
Shooting
line.
10 free throws in overtime is a crazy statistic, too, because what's an overtime period? 5 minutes?
5 minutes. Mm-hmm.
It's like every shot you're throwing up on every possession, you're getting fouled on.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. I mean, fouling was the name of the game towards the end. It was just, I mean, for the Lady Vols to come back from 17 points down, I think at the 6-minute mark, it was like 6 minutes and 34 seconds, I want to say. I might be off by a few seconds, but 17-point deficit just completely taken away, mainly from the free throw line, and then some of the girls were hitting 3-pointers whenever they needed it and definitely getting the and ones on multiple fouls, but in overtime, they also missed all 5 shooting attempts from the field, which was really interesting, but those 10 free throws really made up for that. But, going into the half, the game was tied 34-all, and then the second half opened up with Gonzaga going on an 11-2 run, and it just did not look pretty at all. But talking about free throws, Sierra Burdick was 8 for 8 at the line, and Jordan Reynolds was 7 for 8, and she also had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, so a full line there for her. But overall, I mean, this is probably one of the most exciting games I've seen for the Lady Vols this tournament. This and the Pitt game. The Pitt game was really exciting. That was also a nail-biter.
Didn't get to watch the game.
Oh, my gosh. I'm heartbroken. Well, it was good. It was so good.
I was following it on Twitter, and I saw that we were down by, I guess, you said 17. 6 minutes. So I was like, I guess that's just the end of the run, which is, I mean, all right, but you'd like to get to the Elite
definitely. And I remember at the 6-minute mark, I was talking to my dad on the phone because Kentucky was playing right after, so I had to talk to him about the game, tell him what I thought that Notre Dame would stand up very well against them and whatnot. And I remember him saying, well, if the Lady Vols can pull this one out, I'll feel much better about my bracket. So in other words, I knew he was rooting for the Lady Vols to come back. And I told him, I was like, it's 17 points. I don't know how this is going to work. I was like, I hope it does, but I don't see it happening. And I don't even think we talked after the game. We were both too in awe. I remember him texting me saying, well, that was surprising. And I'm like, yep, it was. But definitely very exciting game there for the Lady Vols. And they will take on Maryland tonight, so Monday night, the number 1 seed in our region, for a chance to go to the Final Four. But this Elite Eight was the 27th, or it's going to be the 27th Elite Eight for the Lady Vols, and a win would send them to their 19th Final Four. So that's the most in NCAA history, and they haven't been since 2008. And the last time we were there, in 2008, was whenever we won that national title, and that was national title number 8 as well. I remember winning 8 in 8. Yeah, winning number 8 in 2008. So that was a big thing that they had going on. But really exciting so far for the Lady Vols. It's going to be tough against Maryland because, I mean, this is a team, they've had pretty dominating wins. Their closest game was against Duke, so the last game that they played in, they only won by 10. And, I mean, Duke's women's team is really good. So it's going to be really exciting to watch.
Yeah, the Lady Vols are going to have to shoot the ball better tonight. They're probably not going to get to shoot. I guess probably 20 plus free throws are not going to get to shoot, and even if you do get to shoot them, I just don't think you're going to make 21 of them. You got to shoot the ball better than 30% to win 2 games in a row. And that game will be at 9 o'clock tonight on ESPN. But before that, at 7 o'clock on ESPN, Connecticut will be taking on Dayton, and I'm going to go ahead and say I would not be surprised to see Connecticut lose. I would love to see it. Dayton's women's team has been super strong. They're a 7 seed going against a number 1. I know that seems kind of like out of the realm of possibilities, but Dayton's women's team is really showing their stuff. Yeah, that Connecticut women's team just has this aura around it of just being borderline unbeatable most of the time.
Right.
But
I mean, if Stanford could do it last year, anything's possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at UConn's scores so far, they won the first round 89-33 against St. Francis, and then they took on Rutgers in the second round, winning 91-55. And then in the Sweet 16, they won against Texas 105-54. Oof, it's a 51-point win. Absolutely incredible. But I mean, all Vol fans want to see Gino Auriemma lose. Yeah. I would love to see Dayton win. I have a really good friend who goes to Dayton, and I know he's kind of sad about what's been happening with the men, but he would be very happy to see the women win. So I'm going to root for the Flyers. I think it's a lot to look forward to from them.
And if Dayton can manage to beat Connecticut and Melson and the Vols can win tonight, it makes the path to the national championship game just that much easier.
Definitely. And looking at the Final Four, teams that have already made it in, Notre Dame, South Carolina. So you have 2 number 1 seeds there. No surprise that South Carolina's in. They've had a pretty good run so far. The closest game they had was against North Carolina. That was a final score of 67-65 back in the Sweet 16. So, I mean, Notre Dame, fantastic women's team. South Carolina has been fantastic this year too. But yeah, I think if the Lady Vols do win tonight, and if somehow Dayton wins, oh man, I'm really happy thinking about that, just that idea. But if that could happen, you're definitely right, Mason. It could look a lot easier for the Lady Vols. Looking over at baseball real quick, the Vols beat Cincinnati on Wednesday 7-0. Zach Warren, who's a freshman, had 5 scoreless innings with 1 hit allowed and 4 strikeouts. So great performance there from him. And the Vols scored 7 runs on 4 hits. That is absolutely insane. Whenever I was reading over those stats, I thought, this is a typo. 7 runs on 4 hits. How in the world? But, I mean, they're looking up. They're doing something right there. But Friday started the weekend series against Vanderbilt, who is the number 3 seed in all of the land. They're just coming off of a national championship last year. But Friday, the Vols lost 9-0. Brett Marks started for the Vols with 6 hits allowed and 8 runs allowed as well, with 3 being earned and 9 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. I mean, Brett's coming off of winning the co-SEC Pitcher of the Week whenever we had spring break a couple weeks back. So, I mean, he's doing fairly well, but, I mean, still to pitch 5 1/3 innings, that's not bad, and those 9 strikeouts were really good for him. Saturday, the Vols beat Vanderbilt 9-5, which was fantastic. I was super hyped after that win, and that win was actually the first win in Nashville for the Vols since May 16th of 2009. It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
That's really hard to believe.
For the other game, in the first 2 games that they had lost to Vanderbilt, fielding just killed them.
Absolutely.
They're just unnecessary errors. And I think they have a 95% fielding rate. It's like last in the SEC, but
yeah, it was ridiculous. But looking at Saturday's game, it was tied at 5 through the 7th inning, and the Vols rallied in the 8th, scoring 4 runs. And I think it's really cool. It's really cool and really important to note that the Vols out-hit Vanderbilt 11-7 in that matchup. The Vols had 5 runs on 5 hits in the 3rd, which was really exciting there, too, to start off strong that early. But then looking at Sunday's matchup, it was not pretty. The Vols lost 14-3. Vanderbilt had 7 runs in the first inning alone, including a grand slam from Xander Wheel. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but, I mean, a grand slam in the first inning.
it's pretty demoralizing.
Yeah, it was hard to watch. It was 10-2 by the end of the 4th, so that's really interesting as well. That's
a great start.
It's yeah.
Any means.
Oh yeah, no. But the Vols had 5 pitchers come to the mound. Hunter Martin had he had 1/3 of the first inning that he pitched, and he was relieved by Stephen Kane, and then Zach Warren relieved Kane in the 3rd and pitched 2 1/3 innings. So I mean, that's 3 pitchers within the first 3 frames.
Yeah, that's not something you'd ever want to do.
No, and I mean 5 pitchers from the bullpen. That's oof.
That's everybody you got.
Yeah, it is. I know Quentin Robinson. I think he's the only one who didn't play on Sunday, but he played Saturday, and it was his first time out there on the field for the Vols. So that could be another arm we could have in there. I think he closed the game on Saturday for the Vols, so that's something to look at. But I mean, the Vols are struggling right now. I want to say they're 11-13 on this season, or maybe 11-14 on the season right now. So I mean, it's a little bit of a struggle, but I really do think getting that 1 win against Vanderbilt is definitely something to look forward to and to definitely be really excited about. And looking over at softball, they are ranked number 15 in the nation right now. They had 2 big wins last week against ETSU, winning 10-0 in just 5 innings last Tuesday, and then last Wednesday they beat Tennessee Tech 6-1. It's nice to get 2 Tennessee wins in there. And then they had a series against Georgia start this past Saturday. They won the first game on Saturday 4-3. They were down 3-0 going into the sixth against a team that's ranked number 7 in the nation. And Annie Aldretti had a 2-run homer in the bottom of the sixth to make it 3-2. That's her 10th home run of the season. And she's a sophomore. So, I mean, that's really exciting. She was really good last year, but for her to be a sophomore and already have 10 home runs this season.
And she's building off of what she did last year. Only going to get better.
No, I would definitely put her as one of, if not the top player that the Lady Vols have right now. She's definitely the most promising. And then in the bottom of the seventh, Taylor Cohen and Lexi Overstreet had back-to-back homers to give the Lady Vols the win. Very exciting game against a very good team. And then Sunday, the Lady Vols beat Georgia again 6-2. They were Lady Vols were down 2-1 going into the fifth, and then the Lady Vols scored 5 runs in the bottom of the fifth. Those scores came from Megan Gregg, who had an RBI, Gretchen Aucoin, I hope I'm saying her name correctly too. She was hit by a pitch to take a base while the bases were loaded, so she brought in Rainey Gaffin, for the score there. And then Megan Gear had an RBI, and then Shalia Geethers had 2 RBIs, all within the bottom of the fifth. That was a really exciting inning for the Lady Vols, giving them the win 6-2. But they're going to wrap up the series tonight, so Monday night at 7. So if you aren't at home watching the Dayton UConn game, you should definitely go out and watch Lady Vols play at 7 to wrap up a really exciting series. But, I mean, that's pretty much all we have this week. Very loaded week. A lot of sports to talk about. Basketball's still really exciting. So by the next show that we have next week, hopefully the Lady Vols will be in the Final Four heading to a championship. That's something to look forward to. And then baseball. Major League Baseball starts 1 week from today. I am so excited. I can't wait. Opening night will be this coming Sunday. I think it's the Cardinals and the Cubs starting that one off. I'm really excited. I grew up a Cubs fan, and I've watched a lot of the Cardinals players that played for the Smokies. Smokies on both of these teams. This is going to be a great one for the minor league squad that we have here, but we'll be talking more about baseball coming up, and then I think we have some more NHL news coming up too. The season's winding down, so that's something to be looking forward to, but that's all we have this week. We will see you next week.